one. So if anybody prefers to have their cameras off, that's totally fine, but it's also nice to see people's faces if you want to have your camera on. My name is Alex. I think quite a few of you have already joined Green Olive activities and tours online or physically in the past, so you may well know me and Green Olive already, but for those of you who don't, I'm the Vice President of Green Olive. We're an Israeli Palestinian collective. We've been around for 13 years, giving physical and now online tours and other kind of information, all with the same goal, trying to promote democratic values and human rights in Israel, Palestine, and end the occupation. Tonight's event is quite special for us. We're obviously celebrating two very important holidays. I should maybe have begun by saying Happy Easter to everybody and Happy Passover to everybody. These are the two holidays we're going to be focusing on today. We have 9 different online tours. If you haven't seen them all yet, I encourage you to have a look on our brand new website. Most of them deal with kind of geopolitics and the big issues behind what's going on in our land. But we have 2 topics which are more specifically focused on religion. And we're joined by the 2 hosts of those 2 tours today, Eliyahu and Malkon, and I'll get them to introduce themselves in just a moment. But I think that oftentimes religion is kind of overlooked when we talk about the conflict and the issues which we have here. And I think that the first step to resolving these kind of issues is to understand. So I think it's really cool that we're able to host these kind of events, both to celebrate the holidays and also to give people the chance to maybe ask questions of people who are in these communities and for whom these are the most important holidays of the year in many cases. Today's event is going to operate very similar to how our other online events have been functioning so far. We have about 90 minutes, so an hour and a half set aside. We may be a bit shorter as we have quite a small group, or maybe a bit longer if there are lots of questions, I'm not sure. We're going to hear from our 2 speakers one by one, and then at the end we'll have time for plenty of questions. If you want to dig deep into the holidays themselves, what they mean to Eliyahu and Malkon, or if you want to kind of talk more about their peace building work and the kind of politics behind it all, that's of course something which we at Green Olive do a lot of. Before I give you over to our speakers, I should give a quick plug to their 2 separate tours. Malkon leads our Christians of the Holy Land tour. Eliyahu leads our Meet the Orthodox Jews tour. And if you haven't joined both of those, this is a great little kind of introduction for those 2 tours, which deal with each kind of topic in a bit more detail. Anything else I need to say? Oh yeah, one final thing which is important. I'm going to stop talking soon, I promise, but this one is important. All of our online tours don't have a registration fee, but this is the only way that we are kind of keeping the collective alive in these difficult times with the pandemic. So at the end of today's session, we encourage you to leave a contribution, whatever you felt it was worth. There is no minimum required amount or anything like that. It's totally up to you, but I'll paste a link in the chat where you can contribute whatever you'd like to. That, of course, supports Eliyahu, Malkon, and our collective. And we also are donating 10% of all the proceeds from all of our online activities to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, which gives medical care to kids who wouldn't get it any other way. So several good causes, I always say. Great, so I think I'm going to stop talking for a moment, and I guess maybe Malkon, if you want to begin just by introducing yourself, we can start things off with you.
Sure. So you want to go by me introducing myself and then Eliyahu, and then I go back, or you want me to introduce and go into it? Because it's nice they know also Eliyahu right from the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. So let's give you a chance each to say hi, and then we can kind of present.
Sure. And Eliyahu first, because he's a...
Hi everyone, I'm Eliyahu McLean, and host of the Meet the Orthodox tour. I've also been, over a number of years, worked with Green Olive Tours, occasionally running a tour called the Religions of Abraham. And that tour, I would bring travelers pre-COVID to meet a sheikh, a rabbi, and a priest, or a woman, religious person from each of the 3 faiths communities in Jerusalem. So one day in the home or synagogue or mosque or church or monastery of that community member. And I also founded an organization, Jerusalem Peacemakers, very active in interfaith dialogue for many years. And happy to be with you tonight and excited to share with you the very interesting customs of Passover in the Jewish tradition.
Thank you, Eliyahu. Okay, my name is Malkon. I'll be starting the tour today. I was born here in Jerusalem. I come from Palestinian, Armenian, and Egyptian, Coptic, and more type of family. And I've been with Green Olive for a while. I did my master's in human rights, and I have a degree in biblical history and prophecy. I lead different types of tours, more in geopolitics, but as well as Christianity in general and the history of Christianity. And so for today, it's a very interesting topic. I am an interactive type of person, so I might approach you with a question. I want to encourage you to answer, guess, even if you don't know. Or there might not be much questions, but if there is, please, I encourage you, because listening too much, you may lose me. So we want you to be engaged, since this tour is about you, not about us. At the end of the day, this is about those who come. And so, yeah, we encourage you to pop up. If you have a question, please interrupt, because this is Zoom. It doesn't work otherwise. And yeah, so I'll be speaking a bit about Easter, or what we also call Passover in Arabic, Fasah, same as in Hebrew, Pesach. I'll say about the meaning of the word maybe. Just some history of it, biblically. Why do we have Easter? What is Easter? Some of you already may know this, so I might begin with a question, as I said. And then I will speak a bit about the church of the Pesach, or the church of the Holy Sepulchre, of the resurrection, where this event takes place a bit. And then I'll show you a video of our most kind of known event called the Saturday of Light, or the Holy Fire. And then I will end also with some celebrations of how Palestinian Christians celebrate through scouts and different stuff. I hope we have time for all of this. I'll do it shortly, of course. All of those are a few minutes or a few seconds. Some of it is each. But yeah, so first to you, anybody knows the origin of the word either Easter or Pesach or Passover? You can just jump in. Don't cheat through Googling now, yeah? Tell us just what you feel.
Now we know that Passover relates to when the children of Israel were slaves in Egypt, and there had been 10 plagues, but Pharaoh still didn't let them go. And then the last plague, which was the worst one, was when the eldest son, the firstborn son of every family, was going to die. But God warned the Jewish people about this in advance, and they had to kill a lamb and put its blood on the doorposts and on the lintel above the door. And then the angel of death passed over those houses, and their boys were spared. And Jewish people have celebrated this ever since and call it Passover.
Amazing. You're right. It comes from the Jewish history. Thank you, Rosemary. Where are you from?
I live in Scotland.
Oh, I love the Scottish accent.
and Jane is a friend of mine. She's on the Zoom as well. Can you see Jane?
Jane?
Yes, she's just waved.
Yes, I just saw Jane now.
What part of Scotland?
Near Glasgow.
Okay, amazing. And usually I begin by people introducing their names and where they're from, but maybe the time is very limiting. But I would say welcome to Rosemary, Carolina, Frankie, Mirna, Anthony. Fab is a mysterious nickname. You can tell us your name. Jane and Hillary.
Fabrizio, so just put it shorter.
What is your name?
Fabrizio, I'm Italian.
Fabrics, of course. Italy, Rome, all the history. We love you guys.
Very close.
Okay, cool. So welcome to everybody. And thank you, Rosemary, for the amazing... That's it. She finished my tour. I can move into Eliyahu. That's amazing. No, it was perfectly done. Okay, so why do Christians celebrate this? Since it's about the beautiful Jewish people. Anybody also wants to say? We can, even if it's the same person. يلا أهلا وسهلا.
We celebrate Easter because it was at the time of the Jewish Passover that the Lord Jesus Christ was put to death and rose again from the dead. So it took on this new special meaning for Christian people. And it happened at Passover time.
Amazing. Exactly. As I said, my tour is finished. So yes, Rosemary, thank you. Yes, we celebrated because it took over on the same day. But let's really clarify it more. Why did it take place on that day? Because it is Christianity. Now, to explain Easter, we need to explain Christianity in less than 7 seconds. Christianity is Judaism fulfilled. It's the fulfillment of Judaism. It's not a separate, new, cool faith that is based on love and peace. Okay? And so everything that was in the Tanakh by Jewish saints, or the Old Testament in Christian terms today, was shadows, not everything, but I mean a lot of things, shadows of what is to come. And so for us, Jesus has come. And who is Jesus? Important to say. Why is this event the most important event? And like most Christians know, but for non-Christians, this is the most important event to Christianity. By the way, almost also for Jews. Nisan was considered the first, but I'll leave this to Eliyahu to speak about. But yeah, it's the most important because Jesus is God. So the most important event in history is God's crucifixion and God's resurrection himself on the face of the planet. So this is the event. It's not only an event, it's not only the most important, it's the only event, so to speak. So why did it happen then? Because God is a God of art and shadows and meanings. So he made it happen on this because the angel of death skipping over with the lamb's blood representing his blood on the cross. So Jesus' blood was the lamb blood that the Jewish people put on their doors so that the angel could pass over. Also, the word Pesach can also mean compassion for it. So although it's a controversial meaning, or mercy. So the angel had mercy because of the blood. The blood represents sacrifice. Sacrifice represents forgiveness, which what God himself did on the cross with his blood. He's the only person, the only creator, the only guy who can present forgiveness. So this is just important to found or establish why we speak about Easter, or why is Easter important. Now, the very quick word about Easter. Easter is not the original word. It was used later in first centuries, the beginning of the AD centuries at some point, because it comes from Estar, as some say, the goddess of fertility, but it's still controversial. It comes also from German or original Latin, which means dawn. So different stuff. That's why we still have also some pagan celebration during this day, but such as the eggs, etc. But Christians are proud of these things because Christianity is about redeeming what was pagan into making it meaningful. So it includes everybody, including pagan people, because Jesus died for the whole world, and his heart goes to all those who do not believe in anything or believes in weird stuff. And that's the heart of the cross or the resurrection. Cool? Any questions or comments so far before I move it into some photos of the Holy Sepulchre Church? Okay, I should do share screen. Now I hope that it will share everything I have. Cool. Okay. So I said church. I actually will start with the holy fire first instead of the pictures because it's more engaging. And one lady here was saying a bit about this. 1 second. I hope everybody sees. Okay, so what I just shared was about the holy fire, which what we call Saturday fire, and it happens in the Eastern Church kind of traditions. And the holy fire is believed to come from the out of the tomb of Jesus every year, and they believe it's holy, at least Eastern Christians. And the fire, they spread it all over the world. And this is part of the celebration or the rituals of what we do during this fire. This fire is taken even in boxes in ways that it doesn't turn off into the whole world, into every country. This is an evidence that Jesus has brought light when he rose from the dead, because his tomb is empty inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Now let's look a bit at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre itself and maybe speak a bit about it. So we have also the Via della Rosa. Via della Rosa means the way of the cross in Greek, and this is where Jesus held the cross. This is actually, if anybody is Roman Catholic here, I don't want to assume the Italians are, they might be, but this was established by the Roman Catholic Church, this way of the cross today. It's since only the 1800s, although it started in the 1600s. And this is part of the stations. They are made up of 14 stations where Jesus held his cross until he was crucified. This is station number 12, which is the most important before the tomb, which is where he was actually crucified. Now, to look, just for those who like to know more about Christian differences and denominations, on the right hand, it's a different denominational section where Jesus is laid on the cross, if you see it down there, and on the, like here, on the left hand, you see Jesus up with a lot of other symbols, a lot of other stuff here, rosemaries, and could call it a lot of things here. Now, this is the Orthodox section of Christianity. Orthodox, by the way, means upright. That's why Jews also use this word Orthodox, upright. Catholic means universal or unifying. Okay? And so the whole church was called Catholic throughout history because it means the unifying church. Orthodox were the ones who were mainly in Palestine areas, more of the eastern side of what we call the Byzantine church. And this is why the difference here, the Catholics usually focus on Virgin Mary. If you notice, the picture is not supposedly, it's not, super clear, but there is Virgin Mary several times at least, and less of those icons or lights. Whereas the Orthodox focus a lot also on Virgin Mary, but a lot of other saints. Now the Protestants have no place in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Okay, so those are the two sections that are built. Here, down here, this is, it's kind of seen as the rock where Jesus was built. It's down where people go through the Holy Sepulchre, and it's seen as the rock of Adam, actually, where Adam was originally died or left his body there. And they call it in Aramaic Golgotha, or it means the skull, human skull, which refers to Adam. So Jesus was crucified over Adam to say, I'm crucified for the whole human race. And that's why he was crucified over this rock down here, which doesn't show. If you through the glass, you can see something rocky. This is what I'm talking about. Okay? It would be nice if you ever come here and visit one day. Okay, this is the tomb. The light from above is just how the church is made, but this is the tomb. It's the Crusaders made, renovated because the church was destroyed and rebuilt. Who built the church? It's Helena. Maybe some of you know, maybe not. Again, Rome comes into play. Constantine, who declared the Christianity in around 313 AD or 12 as Rome's kind of accepted religion. It was considered unaccepted, but then it was officially accepted. And so his mom was already a believer. So she comes to Jerusalem to try to find a place to build for Jesus, of course, like any Christian would be interested to build for Jesus. So she built the church in the 4th century. Okay, this part of the stations is the station number 13, where Jesus' body was laid down right after the cross, and then it was sent to the tomb that we just saw. This is part of the Armenian section of the church. We're not gonna go into it, but just different styles of the church. I'm an Armenian as well, so I get excited when I mention Armenian. Okay, and this is the inside of the church and how people sometimes fight over spaces. Not our topic, but this is a bit about how many denominations there is in Christianity today. Okay, and the rest is not about the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Now, if I want to do another, one second to share with you another screen. Do you see now the other screen, or shall I? Do you see any?
No, we still see St. Mark's, the old slideshow.
Okay, 1 second. Can you help me, Alex? I can't get back into, stop share. Okay, now I got it. Okay, now I'm gonna go. Any questions so far before I go into how we celebrate? Any questions about the Holy Fire? Any questions about, or for later, you can write them down.
One question for me. So just to confirm, the same stone where Jesus died.
Can't really hear you,
Theory.
Fab, very clearly.
Yeah.
Like you have to shout or do something.
Are you better now?
No.
Okay, then my earphones are not working. Sorry. No, it's fine. I will
Okay,
write
okay.
it down.
No. Don't try just to make it loud enough. I'll try my best, and Alex will try if I don't hear.
Yeah, so the place where Adam was born and Jesus died is the same, the exact same, the same stone.
Sorry, I said born. I'm buried as well. This is
Buried.
believed to be Adam's skull, the skull of Adam. Now, was really Adam buried there? We don't know. It's a belief. We don't have enough evidence. I don't think it's a very evidence, but I think yes, there was a symbolic way of putting it. But yeah, because according to biblical history, the Garden of Eden has 10 potential places. But I'll surprise you. What is the first place that is believed to be the Garden of Eden, where supposedly Adam should have been living around it because he was kicked out or get out of it? It should be historically, it's thought to be around historic Armenia. Okay, because I'm Armenian, I get excited. So. All of those things, probably he did not come to Palestine, but maybe he did. So we don't know. Cool, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Before we move into the last part, I think I have a few more minutes, right, Alex? We started 8.
Yeah, no problem. Please go ahead.
Yes. All comments? Okay, amazing. We still can jump in. Now I'll show you a bit of our Palestinian Christian, like literally my neighborhood, my quarter, my people, everybody in those. You might see me even if I'm there, like this is like the very, very heart of our Palestinian Christians. I live in the very heart. I live next to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus was crucified. This is the most kind of historic Christian place, and Palestinian Christians feel very attached to it. We have around 5,000 to 6,000 Palestinian Christians living in the what we call today Old City of Jerusalem, which is historic Jerusalem. All of what's today Jerusalem, like East and West, are very new Jerusalems. They didn't exist. They only existed for the last 100 to 200 years. Okay, you see what I'm showing?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, let's do this. So we have our guy here. He represents Christianity and he speaks about Christian, but Okay, amazing. Okay, so a
Did you
bit
include
about that.
bagpipes just for the Scots deliberately, Malkon? Did you know we were going to have some Glaswegians?
Yeah, just for the Scots, of course. You see, we guys are imitating you. So this is our Scouts. This is Orthodox Eastern Christian celebration. So Easter in Jerusalem is mainly an Orthodox. The main Eastern celebration is the big one. Is for the Orthodox people, as opposed to the Catholic. Catholic is more celebrated with Christmas here. Is a big one, we call it. The big other one is the more Orthodox. It is believed also the Orthodox calendar is definitely closer to the exact date or the closer date of when Jesus was. And it's usually closer to the Jewish calendar, which were actually historically was more accurate to the date of when Jesus was crucified, as opposed to the Catholic. But it's not, we're not saying this is better or worse. It's just saying how it is, because why is it different dates? Anybody knows? Let me throw a question because I've been talking a bit. Anyone knows why we have different dates in Christian denominations of different holidays? Like we even Armenians have, in Jerusalem, we have 3 Christmas dates. Armenians have, we have our own unique ones. We're weird, pretty weird. Okay, quickly, because of the use of different calendars historically, and maybe it was always interesting to me to ask this question. I don't know how interesting to others, but why is it different? What's wrong with Christians? Why do they not unify on the date even? So it's because of the different use of the Julian versus the Gregorian calendar. Gregorian calendar took place starting the 16th century, as opposed to the Julian calendar, which goes back into 2nd or 1st BC. It's very old. So the Orthodox Eastern churches, like my background more, we kept the older calendar, which is 12 days less, kind of slower, we call it. Whereas Gregorian is faster or has more, 12 days and a half or so. And that's why there is always a difference. And it also depends on the moon in particular Catholic or Gregorian calendars. And that's where it gets messy with those events, in short. Okay, what I just showed you was celebrations of the Scouts. That's what we do in the Christian quarter. And the other one where people were, so this is a very, very like a Palestinian Arab Christian celebration every year, except for the Corona, it killed everything. We shout, celebrating that Jesus died for our sins and has set us free. In Arabic, we shout that over and over in that form. A guy goes up and we all repeat after another guy goes up and another guy goes up. And it's really fun and we like it. It's really fun. And we also have kaik, which is, we have eggs, which come, as you said, some from pagan traditions, but egg, we kind of see it as giving new birth. And last, before I finish, what is new birth? What is all those symbols? What is the cross? What is resurrection? Very shortly, back to the beginning, to end with the beginning. Easter, or what we call today Passover, is about the new covenant or the new birth that God has promised the Jewish people in the Old Testament, saying, I will make with you a new covenant. Not like the one I had with your ancestors who were in Egypt, with your forefathers. No, rather a new one where my laws will be written in your hearts. You don't have to memorize now and do's and don'ts. Rather, you will have to, it will be in your heart. Now, what is this secret, mysterious law? It is what God did by sacrificing himself and offering forgiveness. Now, by the blood, he offers forgiveness. Now, people say, okay, why do we need then resurrection if he offers forgiveness and it's over? Well, resurrection is the new life. So after we're forgiven, we need a new birth, which is what's resembled in the eggs today, resembled in the church itself, in the empty tomb, in the Holy Sepulchre, and it's resembled in what we believe in eternity. So how do we know where we're going after death for Christianity? If and only if we believe that Jesus gave us forgiveness and raised from the dead for us, so we can have eternal life. Without that, there is no, like, it's not works-based, it's not how good we are, although that follows and should follow, but it is the acceptance of the gift of forgiveness and of resurrection, of what God did, not of what humans can do. And this is the greatness and the glorification of God. We put God first, and that's when why we celebrate Easter very importantly. And of course, this is the main difference between any Jew or any Christian, or even any Muslim, any Christian, or any person, because we believe Jesus is God himself, meaning the Messiah, or in Hebrew from Mishcha, or Mishicha is the anointed one, the chosen one, to bring salvation, or to bring redemption, or to bring the new birth of the egg, or of the cross, or the resurrection, so we can, and this is the secret of baptism. We get baptized, so we die and rise again. Die and rise again through water, symbolic, but it's about the relationship and where we end up in the afterlife. Easter decides it. And that's why I'm not all into much tradition. I like how people celebrate, but sometimes it loses the foundation. Foundation is love, relationship with the Creator, not symbols and stuff, but all of those are cute. But it's Easter or Passover is about mercy of the angel of death of God over the human race through his own blood for eternity. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Malkon. I mean, it's a real challenge to fit like the whole topic of Easter into like half an hour, but we really appreciate it, and it's great to get your perspective. And I'm sure there are lots of questions, but I think if anybody has a short, quick clarification, they want to ask it now, that's totally fine. But if anybody wants to kind of discuss this more, I think we'll probably wait for after Eliyahu's spoken, so he has a bit of time. So unless anybody has any quick clarification questions, I'll now say thanks, Malkon, and introduce you to Eliyahu, our second speaker and host of our Meet the Orthodox Jews tour. So welcome, Eliyahu. How are you doing? Chag Sameach.
Hi, Chag Sameach. Actually, the holiday happening now is Ramadan. Passover is over, so we should say Kul Am Winta Bacher, right? For all our Muslim friends around us in the Holy Land. They're the ones actually in the heart of their celebration.
So
And we both recently passed through Easter and Passover, so the spirit of the holiday is still very much with us. So happy holidays to everyone. So I'm Eliyahu, and I have a short presentation I'll share with you about the meaning, not just the meaning, but the practice, the way Passover, Pesach is practiced by Orthodox Jews and Jews in general. And there's a lot to talk about. It's a very elaborate ritual, but basically it comes from the word Pesach or Passover, which I think Rosemary, you had mentioned, the story in the Bible when the children of Israel were in Egypt, and the 10 plagues were raining down upon the Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and the last plague was the plague of the death of the firstborn. And the tradition is that there's blood was spread over the doorposts of the Jewish people so that the angel of death wouldn't enter those houses. And so that word Passover literally means the angel of death passed over. Pesach is a word for the Pesach, meaning sacrifice. It's one of the sacrifices also that was offered in the temple in Jerusalem when the first and second temples existed, the Passover sacrifice. But I want to talk about what is it, how do we practice today? So, and there are texts in the book of Exodus where it says specifically the word Pesach and Passover, well, Pesach in Hebrew. It also, the holiday has different words in the biblical tradition, it's also called Chag HaAviv, the springtime festival. It's also called Chag HaAsif. This is also the harvest, planting and harvest. It's like with Sukkot and Passover, they're the opposite sides of the calendar. So it's also an agricultural holiday, and the start of 50 days of counting of what's called the Omer, the counting of the agricultural days. It's also called Pentecost, I think, for Christians, from Passover to a holiday called Shavuot, which is a 50-day cycle. Okay. Now I have a short presentation about, and so I want to switch to full screen. How do I do that, Alex?
So you should see share screen in the bottom middle of this down below, and you should have permission to share. So if you click on the green share screen, you should then have the option to show us.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Share. Okay, we're sharing. All right. And present. There we go. Okay. So this is, everyone with me? This is matzah. Matzah, the unleavened bread. Passover is a holiday very much where we eat, first of all week long. We eat matzah. We eat this unleavened bread because when the children of Israel were fleeing from the Pharaoh in the desert in Egypt, they didn't have time to bake their bread as normal. They had, according to our tradition, 18 minutes. And so we, for the whole week, do not eat any leavened bread. We take, do an elaborate process starting months before to clean our houses. Okay, we clean every single corner, and of course, of our house, of our car, of every single aspect. You could call it not even spring cleaning, but it's also a spiritual process of cleaning. The chametz is the puffed up ego. It's the aspect of myself that I need to get rid of. You know, all of the excess spiritual and emotional baggage that I've been carrying around. We do this intricate process of cleaning, you might even say neurotically so, every single aspect of our house. So it's the woman, the man, every single member of the household. And so here's an example of, you know, of a Jewish house where we'll go to the tops of the showers, we'll go with toothbrushes it's more than spring cleaning. You understand? It's like, every Jewish home turns every single nook and cranny. I'll have to take out every book from my shelf and to see if there's crumbs that have been scattered around. And I have 5 children who drag pieces of bread around the house. Okay, so I literally have to go through every book like this, you know, and are there crumbs there? I'm cleaning it out. It's so thorough that we go nuts. We go totally, it's a frantic process of, I have to find, the word chametz it's leavened like yeast, but it's also the outer work and practice of cleaning every single little crumb in our house is the crumb in my own heart and the crumbs in the dark corners of my psyche. You understand that I want to purify, I want to get rid of, I want to get closer to my family and closer to God in this process. So there's an elaborate, so here's this, the humorous things. Please do not bring chametz into this room. So what we'll do is we'll go room by room in the house, okay? And the bedroom is now chametz free, okay? And then the children's room. And so slowly we clean one part of the house till at the very last 2 days before Passover, we can only eat bread in one far little corner, you know, in a corner near the balcony, you know, because you're also not allowed to eat matzah before Passover starts, you understand? And this year was so complicated because Passover started Saturday night, but on Shabbat, you're supposed to eat bread, but you're not allowed to eat matzah. So it's very complicated, and there are whole lessons from rabbis how to do it. But this is kind of a humorous look. Like some people go so overboard to make sure that we're not going to come into contact with chametz. This is obviously not as extreme as I'm covering. I'm sitting on my desk chair. I'm not going to cover it, but in the kitchen, we cover with aluminum foil. We cover with plastic. We do not want our dishes. By the way, I have in my space here, Passover dishes, an entirely new set. You understand? We're taking in our kitchen everything out, every single pot and pan and everything, and I'm setting it aside, and I'm bringing out from storage a whole new pots and pans and forks and knives that we're going to be eating with just for the week of Passover. And we set it, then after the week of Passover is over, it's converting the whole kitchen. You understand? You understand? Like a big family home. It's not just a small bachelor pad. It's a huge operation, huge. Converting your kitchen to a Passover kitchen. Ask anyone, ask any Jewish person, what does it mean to convert so your house is one thing, but to convert your kitchen to Passover. You even have like this Passover car cleaning service. Because remember, you're not allowed during Passover to own chametz. It's against our belief that we can't even own it in our possession. So what do? We clean and we literally throw out every single aspect of chametz. Let's say you're a baker, or you have certain things that you can't get rid of financially speaking, like you own a vodka distillery or some big businesses that you can't lose your livelihood. Oh, I'm jumping ahead of the game. So we have this ritual where we sell, as individuals, we sell our chametz, our unleavened, not just bread, but it's everything in our house that might have come into contact, even my toothpaste, for example. And this is a ritual where the chief rabbis will sell to, this is a Muslim here. I think he's from Abu Ghosh. And the whole state of Israel will sell their chametz to a non-Jew for the week of Passover. So technically, we don't own it. You understand? So that person could actually come into my house and open up where I've locked away and taped away. We have separate cabinets, and it says sold to a non-Jew, or kosher for Passover cabinets that we can open, and then we have locked away ones. And so this is a ritual, literally, where the entire state of Israel is selling its chametz to a Muslim. You understand? So for that week, the Muslims, they technically could, if they wanted to reclaim, all of our Passover. It's just, the whole idea is we want to get rid of the chametz within, the puffed up, unholy aspects of my heart, my soul, and get closer to God. The idea is the tiny little details. It's not something that doesn't make sense for a Jewish person. In fact, it's an integral part of a spiritual journey, how to practice this, okay? Now, the night before Passover is a magical time. It's a special time because I've cleaned up, right? I described how we go through this whole process of cleaning our home. So we take this ritual. The last bit of chametz, we take a wooden spoon, a feather, and a candle, okay? And the father or the family members go and we search under every single piece of furniture with the children. The whole idea is to pass on the tradition, this tradition. It's all about the children. And so we'll take a candle and a wooden spoon. You see a feather down there, okay? And we'll look, and the parents actually will hide 10 little packets of leavened, of chametz, wrapped in paper or in little bags, and hide them around the house. And it's like a hide and seek kind of thing. We looking for the last bits of chametz the night before Passover. Now, what do we do when we've got Passover? You'll go to any ultra-Orthodox neighborhood, and this is what you have happen. Basically, you're burning it the morning before Passover. We can't own it, right? So whatever we can, whatever is leavened. This is their intermingling. This is, from some, I think from upstate New York, just a news broadcast. But ultra Orthodox Jews, basically, it shows we're burning. Literally, the whole community comes together. It's called Bi'or Chametz. We're burning the chametz from our lives and literally making a bonfire and throwing it all in there. It's called Bi'or Chametz. So you'll go into Jerusalem, into Mea Shearim, into any Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, you're going to see this ritual in the day before Passover where everyone is, throwing all the chametz that they've collected. This is an elderly man. It's something that everyone enjoys doing because it's, again, it's a final cleaning process before I enter that holy week of Passover. Okay. Let me go back here. So now we haven't even gotten to Passover evening itself. So this is the order when we finally get to the Passover evening. We have a beautiful ritual, okay, where we set up a table and we have a plate that looks like this. And on the plate are these things. We have the shank bone, okay, which represents the sacrifice. It's actually the Passover sacrifice, okay, that's mentioned in the Bible directly. A hard-boiled egg, a horseradish or maror, representing the bitterness that we experienced when we were slaves in Egypt. Haroset, we put on the plate here. You see it here. You put on a plate always a dish that's made usually of apples and ground up nuts and cinnamon. And it symbolizes the mortar that the Jews were forced to make bricks and buildings, and the pyramids, for the ancient Egyptians. So we eat that it's symbolic mud, basically from thousands of years ago. Haroset, okay? And karpas is a ritual also where we're tasting the bitterness of Egypt. So we dip, as part of the ritual of Passover. So the plate usually will always have these type of elements. So this is the Seder, the Passover Seder. We sit as a family. And I'm just going to briefly go. We don't have much time, but this is the structure of what we do as a family when we're sitting down. We're doing Kadesh. The father of the household will take cup of wine, and bless it, and saying recitation of the blessing over the grape juice. Urchatz, here we wash our hands, okay, before we eat the karpas. Karpas, again, we said was usually parsley, but it can be lettuce, okay? Here you see it's lettuce, or it could be, it's usually lettuce or parsley, something like that, okay, karpas. Okay, then the next start, we take matzah. We always are preparing 3 matzahs, okay, 3 flat matzahs. And it's also, you have the option of machine-made matzahs, but if you really, really want to put your love and heart and attention to the holiday, you're going to get this one. This one is called shmura matzah, handmade matzah. I worked in Mea Shearim many, many years ago, grinding for months. I made paid my rent, hand grinding matzah. It's considered more holy. And I'm saying it every single time I'm grinding this machine, and tiny little bits of flour coming out of the bottom, but I'm saying a blessing, l'shem matzot mitzvah, in the name of the mitzvah of making matzot. The whole idea is that from the time that the wheat grains are collected, water cannot touch it. If water is known to touch it, that means it's leavened. You understand? It has to be totally pure, kosher for Passover flour. And it's made very quickly in a special way, this matzah. Okay, so I break the middle piece of matzah, I break a piece off, and then I hide a piece of the matzah in usually like this, in a special cloth, okay? I take a piece of the matzah and I put the rest in the cloth, and a small piece I then hide in a ritual called afikoman. Afikoman, I'm hiding around the house, but I don't want my kids to see it, because that is part of the magic of the evening, is I'm passing over these traditions to my children. And I'll make it. Okay, now go look for the afikomen. And if you talk to any Jewish household, people remember how their grandparents, what the jokes they would play on their kids, you know, like where they would hide the afikoman, where it was. It's a family tradition. If you go to Jews of Iraq, Jews of Morocco, Jews of Ethiopia, everyone practices it a different way, but it's part of a family tradition, this afikoman. It's like hiding a piece of matzah, and the kids have to go find it, and of course you get a prize, you know, if you find the afikoman. Okay, so break the middle matzah and hide the larger half for the afikoman. Now, Magid is actually the essence of the whole Passover ritual. That is what a Passover Haggadah. I'm going to show you, for example, I was handed down from my grandfather. This is my grandfather's Passover Haggadah. It's like from Palestine in the 1930s, but this is a Passover Haggadah, a kind of a fancy one, but basically, it's all of them are very different. They're, by the way, rich tradition. If you go to museums of Jews in Middle Ages, or you go to Iraq or Morocco or Egypt, you'll find these Haggadahs, which Haggadah literally means lahagid, to say, to tell over the story of Passover. That is the whole essence of this ritual, by the way. The before and after is also important, all these aspects, but the reciting the story of Passover, it's that's where we get creative with the children. We parents will dress up sometimes and do like kind of like bibliodrama and act out the story, and we'll dress in characters, and my wife and I will put sackcloth and, oh, remember when we were in Egypt? Oh, it was so hard, so difficult, and we want the kids to laugh and remember and stay awake, first of all, because the ritual goes longer. They're always up past their bedtime. And so the key is that the youngest one gets to a part in this telling of the story where he says, "Man ishtana halayla," how is this night different? Because there are aspects where you're leaning and eating, There's so many kind of little technical aspects, but that make it very meaningful, what's called a Passover Seder. So we wash our hands, we say motzi, we eat the matzah, we eat the bitter herbs, maror, bitter herbs. Then we eat the matzah and the bitter herbs together. All of this is one step at a time, you understand? And every time that we go to a next step, we go back to the beginning and we chant and sing with the whole family. Kadesh, urchatz, karpas, yachatz, magid, rachza, motzi, matzah, maror, korech, shulchan, orech, tzafun, barech, Hallel nirtza. So every time we go on, we repeat that whole chanting from beginning to end. So it's basically, very organized ritual. We eat the meal, Yom Tov, the holiday meal. Then the kids go find the afikomen, we eat the afikomen, we say the blessing after the meal, we say Hallel, and then we conclude the Seder. Now, when I was a single guy, a lot of times, in Jerusalem and Nachlaot, and sometimes it would go to like 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. It's like it really goes on. Even with the children, this year we ended, I think, at midnight, which is very typical. It's like, it's even the most secular Israelis and Jews and most liberal, everyone celebrates Passover. It's a so essential part of our faith and our tradition. Now there's Orthodox ways of observing, and then there's kind of like, of course, I come from, lived in California, and there's liberal Jews in Jerusalem, and they like to add new traditions to put on the Passover plate, an orange celebrating excluded communities, artichokes, and like there's liberal, so they add other things. But the Orthodox homes, you won't find an orange for gays and lesbians, for example. But for those who do want to add an orange, they want to feel included. There's, liberal, this was what distinguishes a liberal observation of Passover Seder and a more traditional, more Orthodox. Now there's something called the Great Kitniot Debates. Basically, Jewish community have 2 branches in Israel and the world. in the Orthodox and traditional community, the Ashkenazi Jews, right, Jews from Europe, and the Sephardic or Mizrahi Jews. So basically in about the 16th century in Europe, the rabbis determined that wheat is a no-no on Passover, okay? Any wheat products, any leavened products. But they said there were huge sacks of legumes, beans, okay? Hummus beans, garbanzo beans, and they would find it was hard to distinguish and to not know if a wheat grain would get mixed in. So they basically made a prohibition against eating what we call kitniot. You could say legumes. And it evolved into this whole ritual today where you have two separate communities, one community, but Sephardic Jews who will eat, for example, tahina and hummus and rice on Passover, and Ashkenazi Jews who don't. And there's even it's challenging. By the way, I'm a vegetarian, so and I need protein, so it's challenging. For several years, we got permission from some rabbis as vegetarians to eat, for example, quinoa, because quinoa was never part of the biblically defined legumes, or even in Europe in the 16th century. It was a seed grain discovered in Bolivia, right? Or that was raised in Bolivia. So we found a heter, a permission to eat quinoa. For several years, we were eating kitniot, but this year we decided to go back to our Ashkenazi customs and not eat. To say for 1 week we can eat more potatoes, and there's so many creative ways, dairy products and a lot of matzah all week long. By the way, you're not touching bread for the whole week. It's matzah, 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 lots of matzah. Here's more of the kitniot. So, for example, you'll have on products kosher for Passover for those who eat kitniot. Like, for example, you go into the supermarket, you want potato chips, it'll say, Le'ochle kitniot, for those who eat kitniot, meaning Sephardic custom can eat the potato chips, but the Ashkenazi Jews can't. Okay, kitniot, it's called. And last but not least, we're basically keeping, after that ritual, for 7 days, we Jews are in the synagogue saying prayers of Hallel, praising God in every morning prayer, and it's like a holiday week. And basically, Israelis and also Jewish communities around the world, it's a vacation time. During the week, we're not eating bread; we're eating only the matzahs. Okay, the only matzah and not bread. And all for 7 days, we're keeping this Passover. So we had the one first day with the Passover Seder, and that's like a very special holiday. And then it's like a week-long festival. And then at the end of that week, we have another day, which is a final holiday, a special holiday that the same laws of not traveling and turning a light, similar to Shabbat, at the end of that 7 days. So at the very end of that week-long festival, Hasidic Jews came up also with a custom to do a special, finally, at the end of the 7-day, Seudah, because the whole idea of Passover is we're waiting for Mashiach. Like the Christian tradition, we, of course, believe that Mashiach hasn't come yet. And so we're doing and dedicating this whole week of Passover and our whole lives to do every little act to bring Messiah closer, to bring the Mashiach, the redeemed one, closer. And so we do a meal, but this is more of a Hasidic custom called Moshiach Seudah. And we do one last thing at the very end of the Passover week of 3 matzahs called the Mashiach Seudah. Okay? Now, and then after that Mashiach Seudah and the 7 days, again, we go back into the kitchen and have to turn everything upside down. And you know how nervous it is, because you don't want even one little piece of bread to touch your Passover dishes, okay? There are ways to make, for example, metal utensils kosher for Passover by boiling it in water, but certainly ceramics, things like that, you'd have to just toss it away or use it during the rest of the year, but you couldn't keep it as kosher for Passover. So also, you'll go around Israel, you notice all the pizza joints are doing like sold out, lines around the corner as soon as Passover is over. It's kind of like you go to Tel Aviv, right? If you ever notice that after Passover is over. In a nutshell is the way that Passover is practiced, but it's very, very, for us, very, very deep and holy and special holiday. Pesach, Passover. There's many, many aspects that I didn't leave out, but I know we have, I think, about 15 minutes left for our session. I also have to go at 9:30 Israel time. So let's, you've heard, maybe I'll, yeah, there's lots that you can find on the internet, by the way, about this Passover Seder. There's lots you can Google if you guys are interested to learn more. And I think I'm gonna.
Let me say thank you so much, Eliyahu. That was absolutely fascinating. I love hearing all those like little details of how it is in your house. Really, really, really great. And as you said, we do have time now for questions, and I'm sure there's lots of people with questions. So I'm not going to waste any time. If you have a question, please feel free. Just jump in, unmute yourselves, and you can ask Eliyahu or Malkon. They're both very open-minded and experienced guys, so don't feel embarrassed if you have a question which you think is maybe provocative or too simple. Please just feel free to ask it. And let's go. Does anybody have any questions? Please begin. I have a lot of people are too shy, but I'd love to give you a chance. So please go ahead.
I'd like to ask Eliyahu a question, please.
Go ahead, Frankie.
Yes.
What is the expectation of the Messiah? What kind of a figure will it be? Will it be a political or a spiritual figure?
That's a very good question. There are many, many traditions in Judaism about what Messiah will be. On the more literal aspect, Messiah is said to be a descendant, literally descendant from the house of David, from King David. Messiah will come from the house of David. Messiah will be a man, will not be a god of any kind, or a person, a human being. And the Messiah will usher in an era of peace and harmony, and things like that. There's also, though, in the mystical tradition, something called the messianic process, messianic awareness, that basically godliness, God consciousness will be revealed in the far corners of the earth. And there are different streams of thought politically within the Jewish community. What does that mean, the arrival of Mashiach? Can you close? Yeah, that's my daughter, Aloya. She heard me talking about Mashiach, about Messiah. She got excited. She wanted to come in and add her 2 cents. What does it mean? By the way, we have an expression among Jews: 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Okay, so you ask someone, what does Messiah mean to you? Even among Orthodox Jews, you might get different concepts, but basically an era of peace and harmony in the world. So Messiah as a peacemaker, as the one who will end wars. So this is why, and bring about awareness of God's unity. Right now, we live in a world that's very broken, and a world that's full of conflict and destruction of the earth and destruction of the planet, and Israeli Palestinian conflict and ethnic conflicts around the world. We believe that part of the messianic role and process is to help resolve those conflicts and to come to an era of everlasting peace. But what does that mean literally? Some would say, politically speaking, that the arrival and birth of the state of Israel, some in our community, was part of the messianic process, because Messiah said the ingathering of the exiled Jewish people, Messiah will help do that. Others would say that the birth of the state of Israel is thwarting the coming of Messiah, because that's a political thing, and that's only Messiah's job to deal with politics. You understand? So even among the Orthodox Jews, when it comes to politics, around the birth of the state of Israel, the victory of the war in 1967, the regaining of the biblical heartland, what you would call the occupation of Palestine, some would say the liberation of Judea and Samaria, some would say that's part of the messianic process. Some would say, on the other side, that is against messianic awareness. So politics in Israel and also plays a part, how you integrate this concept of Messiah. But it's meant to be more of a spiritual journey within ourselves. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Hope that's helpful.
I just wanted to, is there any expectation that the Messiah could be a woman?
You'll definitely find that in more liberal branches of Judaism. They'll always say, hey, Messiah could be a woman. There is no prohibition. It doesn't say explicitly a man. So maybe.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Frankie. Fabrizio, I saw you unmuted yourself earlier. Did you have a question, Fabrizio, or anybody else? Please feel free to jump in if you have one.
I have a question. It's more of a general one, probably. I know you talk about Passover and how food and bread that affects like the consumption of it. In terms of what can be done outside of the house, or what is to be done outside of the house, is there anything that changes from a normal week?
You're saying during Passover week outside
Yes.
of the house? When it's not the bookended holidays, it's called Chol HaMoed. It's like a secular but sacred day, kind of in the middle during the week. You can do almost anything as long as you're, you can do anything as long as you're not, it's not just not eating bread, but you're going to only go to a restaurant that's kosher for Passover. And it's complicated for Ashkenazi Jews. If you want to eat in the homes of Sephardic Jews, some are very, very strict and wouldn't. Others would say, wait a minute, we don't eat beans, but beans are not chametz, We don't have to go so far as to like separate ourselves as a nation and a people by not eating with each other. So, but other than that, people go on holidays, basically. You go to any part of the Holy Land, you'll see Israelis packing the beaches, packing the guest houses. That's vacation time. That's very, very time off. And this Passover was kind of like towards the end of a full year of lockdown. So I think a lot of people let loose, because it actually, last Passover is when Corona just started in Israel. And there was a huge issue of Passover alone. I know it's also Easter and Ramadan. Every every religious tradition, you want to be with community. All of a sudden, you have to be separate. So you have elderly people who can't do Passover with their children, their grandchildren. It was very, very hard, very, very harsh, and very difficult, I think, for like everyone in the world in their own way and how they experience COVID. But how do you keep your religious traditions in the time of COVID? And how do you keep Passover? It's very, very Christmas or anything, So all kinds of new issues came up last year. How do you keep Passover? And there were all these online Passover Seders. But we Orthodox Jews don't use the internet or TV or electricity on the holiday. So, literally like our mother-in-law did by herself a Passover Seder in her own apartment, you understand? And that's very difficult, very difficult.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question for Malkon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Hi,
Why is Good Friday called Good Friday and not Bad Friday?
Okay, sure. So Mirna is asking about Friday. For those who don't know, we have Good Friday, which is when Jesus was crucified. Well, it's good because it's for the sake of goodness. And so the crucifixion was the good news, which is what's the word gospel stands for in Greek, which means the good news, which is redemption. A lot of things that my brother was speaking about, Eliyahu, but like cleansing the house, matzah, the unleavened bread, like the Bible mentions that the body of Jesus is the unleavened bread that we should consume. The blood is the cleansing of our souls. All of those shadows that I was mentioning. It's very beautiful how connected it is with the meaning. Of course, we don't see it the same, but I'm saying how Christianity is the Jewish founding of the elements of, let's say, symbols or symbolism of what has happened. So yeah, a Good Friday is for the sake of goodness, and it brought a goodness to the world in that sense. Thank you for the question.
Jane, go ahead. We can't hear you. You're muted, but if you can unmute yourself, Jane, we'd love to hear your question.
Sorry.
No worries.
I understand that this year, Ramadan, Easter, and Passover have occurred very close together time-wise, as close as they have in the last 30-odd years. I just wonder how much tolerance and understanding there is between the different religions when this happens. Or are there any sort of problems that arise when everybody's celebrating at the very close time?
No problems. We've also had, by the way, because Ramadan shifts throughout the year, Ramadan has also been on Hanukkah and Christmas and, every Jewish holiday and Jewish and Christian holiday. Ramadan, is a pure lunar calendar. We were talking calendars earlier, and is shifting forward 10 days a year. So over, a 30 or how many year cycle, Ramadan will eventually cross with every Jewish and Muslim holiday. I found it very special in years past when a fast day, we have fast days in the Jewish tradition, like we have mourning the destruction of the temples in usually the month of August, the Hebrew month of Av. We have a fast day called the 17th of Tammuz. And some years ago, Ramadan fell on the same time as 17th of Tammuz, and we organized a joint iftar for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. And it was very special for the Jews among the audience, because the Muslim iftar, the timing is at sunset when Jews and Muslims break the fast. But the difference is usually like 10 minutes earlier or later. So the Muslims had finished there. There were like 200 people, and 100, including hungry Palestinians, women and children. We organized busloads of people. We held this at the Tantur Ecumenical Institute on the border of Jerusalem and Bethlehem. And it was very special for us Jews, because the Muslims, their fast is over. They can eat. They're allowed to eat. They're holding the date, right? They're ready to eat. They said, no, we're not going to touch the food until our Jewish brothers finish their fast, you understand? And then we're going to break it together at the same time. And that was a very powerful experience. So I'll never forget, that the possibilities when we're observing our faith traditions so close and similar. It's actually, I think, an opportunity for respect. Like I explained to my children also, because we hear fireworks go off. I live in a town called Harish, and right next to an Arab village called El Kutuf, next in Wadi Ara region in Israel. Okay. And so we hear fireworks go off every night, kind of like a boom when the Ramadan fast ends. And it's they think, well, why do they make all of that noise? So it's a chance for me to explain to my children, why is it, there's such a big celebration every night at the same time at sunset? And it's because the Muslims said, boom, fireworks, let's eat, and so I get to explain that the Muslims fast for 30 days. We have our fast days, they have their fast days, and they're excited. They're gathering right now as we speak, a big family gatherings in the evening for Ramadan.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Eliyahu. So Jane, was your question general about tolerance when we have celebrations together?
Yes, it was really, yes.
Okay. So Eliyahu gave you the beautiful exceptional picture. Now, when or how is tolerance, particularly in Jerusalem, for example, but not only, pretty limited. So, for example, Palestinian Christians, us celebrating Jesus, or first, we are pretty marginalized. Both Muslims and Jews don't know what Easter is. Muslims sometimes despise it when they know it's about the resurrection, because they believe in Jesus but not in his crucifixion and death. And Jews pretty much despise the whole thing sometimes in social connections because they don't like Jesus as a whole person. So pretty much not so much fun. Do I get, for example, invited to, I don't know, like I have a lot of Jewish connections, but they're not even open to share with me much about the Passover, the traditions. They're very cautious about getting into discussions about actually faith or religion, especially with a Christian, under the umbrella and accusation that we are trying to convert them because they believe maybe I'm the Crusaders or representing, Western Europe persecuting them, although we are the persecuted ones. And the Eastern Christians have been persecuted by Jews throughout history, and never, almost ever, were Eastern Christians killing or persecuting Jews in general. I'm speaking about the Palestinian Christians. And this has never been, for example, dealt with, whereas Western Europe at least have admitted and apologized for the Jewish persecution, but Jewish persecutions of Christians, Eastern Christians, or Jesus himself as a person was never apologized for, was never addressed, and still never is being addressed. Now, Muslim, Palestinian, Christian, Muslim relations, in many ways, they're hypocritical in holidays. But of course, we're same people, so we say the words, hey, happy Ramadan. But for example, Ramadan Christians, if we walk in the street and we eat, we might get harassed by our Palestinian Muslim brothers and sisters. And as I said, if I like a connection with the Jewish people, depending on their religiosity level, can be pretty much limited, to very secular Jews who don't even keep any Passover, don't care about it, don't mention it, don't. So it's not really much, but what Eliyahu is mentioning is actual initiatives that he's amazingly doing. But that's not the reality on the ground. Particularly Palestinian Christians, we feel harassed in our Easter, where the police prevents me from getting into my church because I'm a local Palestinian Christian. And he allows the tourists back before COVID to go into the church under the name of order. And so it's a lot of abuse, and it's a lot of heavy day to us how we're treated. And we're not even called by both majority groups, if I want to call them Muslims or Jews, we're not even called by our names, Christian. They call us Nutzrim or Nasara, which means the people of Nazareth, because Jesus was the Jesus of Nazareth. Well, we are called Messianic. Messianic means of the followers of the Messiah. In Arabic, Masihi, in Hebrew, Mashiach, in English, Messianic. Now, Christos comes from Latin, and that's where the Christian word comes in. They don't even call us by our names. So imagine, and nobody, like, not much of Happy Easter or we celebrate because we like. So it's not really much fun when it comes. It's not tense, unfortunately. It is tense, but not because it collided together. So the tensity, it's not because coming to. So for your question, it's not like Eliyahu was addressing something nice. Yeah. Like it's an opportunity, as he sees. I also see it as an opportunity for connecting, but it's not because it got together. It's tense or less. But in general, that's the vibes here, particularly in Jerusalem. I wish I gave you a fuller picture, which is definitely way more dominant, at least in my experience as a Palestinian Christian minority among the Jewish majority as well as. And we were not, last thing to say, we're not ever able to celebrate things in the street by Israel since 1967, since they took over East Jerusalem, particularly in Christmas times though, as opposed to Easter. No design, no like particular stuff to be put in the street. It was against us, whereas Muslims were allowed to celebrate Ramadan. So for us, we get the kind of, for in our eyes, the worst, because we're also minorities always suffer anywhere, regardless of their background. Even if they're cool or weird or nice or not nice. Like the Jews.
Thank you, Malkon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know we've come to our deadline. We can maybe have a couple more minutes to say goodbye, but I'd love to give Eliyahu a chance to respond, just because I know you particularly have to go. So if you want to just say a few words, Eliyahu, and then we can wrap things up, the rest of us.
Yeah, I can stay a few more minutes.
Okay,
I'd like to be part of the closure. We're part of a process. I will just say, Malkon, apologize on the name of any of my co-religionists if you've experienced harassed or bothered. It's true, Jerusalem in particular, the old city in particular of Jerusalem, is the most tense place, and Jerusalem is a city of fire, even in our tradition, for a reason. It's we have holy cities of Tzfat and Tiberias and Hebron, but Jerusalem is, there's a lot of tension there, and it attracts also the people who are most passionate about their faith, and sometimes that passion isn't necessarily directed towards interfaith dialogue and cooperation, but a feeling of, my religion is the best or the other. And it's true, Jewish people suffered in Europe, not by Eastern Christians, but, I don't have to go through 2,000 years since the birth of, since Constantine converted to Christianity and it became a state religion. Jewish, anti-Semitism and Christianity have gone hand in hand, and Jewish people have suffered. And so there is a bit of an issue of Jews in Jerusalem today then looking at all Christians in the same way as those Christians who persecuted us in Europe in years past. And it's not fair. It's not fair specifically for Western or Eastern Christians, but we have a lot of trauma in our history that needs healing and needs work. And we really need more dialogue and more understanding. So there's a lot of work to do to heal the wounds between Jews and Muslims, between Jews and Christians and Muslims. That's called interfaith dialogue or work. That means there's a lot of work to do. We're very far from a fully harmonious relationship. I will say in the Galilee, you go to the Galilee, Christians, Jews, and Muslims is much more, of course, there are tensions. Of course, there are land issues, many issues in the Negev or the Galilee, but it's not as tense among Christian, Palestinians, Israelis, the three religions, Druze. There's much more day-to-day coexist. And again, depends on the town and depends on the village. It could be different from place to place. But you're right, Jerusalem is the heart of the conflict. And so, those of you who live in the heart of it, and I have lived in Jerusalem, I know how it is, can sometimes experience the brunt of the ugly side of faith gone too far. But I would say in a general way, write me privately, Malkon. I have a lot of friends in Nachlaot in Jerusalem who host all kinds of Christians and non-Jews for Passover, for Shabbat, for every Jewish ritual you want. You could get you so much experiencing Judaism, you'll be a rabbi by next year if you want. Okay, so I'm happy to introduce you to those who are not so fearful to share their traditions if you're interested. Anyway, I was glad everyone signed in and joined us tonight, and I hope you learned a few things and you have Orthodox Christian and an Orthodox Jew in the same panel. So Alex, if you want to wrap up.
Great. Thank you very much. We do have to wrap things up here. I know it's been a great session, but we have to say goodbye eventually. But if you do have more questions or comments, you want to kind of engage on these issues more, please feel free to reach out by email. We're definitely still here. And as I said at the beginning, you can also hear more from Malkon and Eliyahu in future tours. Malkon's next Christians of the Holy Land tour is a week from today. Eliyahu's next Meet the Orthodox Jews tour is a week and 6 days from today. So you can see all the information for those things online. And I should also say that this meeting has been recorded, and I'll put it up on our YouTube channel so that if you maybe missed the beginning or you want to share it with friends, you can see that online on our YouTube channel, Green Olive Tours. The last thing I should say as well is, of course, about contributions. I really hope you've all enjoyed the session. I hope you found it interesting and stimulating. Whatever you felt it was worth, we really thank you for that. As I said, you're really going to be supporting our collective, but also the hard work of Malkon and Eliyahu for preparing for today's session. I've just pasted here in the chat a link. It's very easy to remember, especially maybe if you're watching this later, you don't see the link in the chat, greenolivetours.com/contributions. We really thank you for your support. Do you want to finish by saying any words, Malkon, of your own? And then I guess we'll have to say goodnight.
I just want to thank everybody for being here. And yeah, I was. I understand we have to finish. I was open to for anybody who had any more question, but yeah, if we have to finish, then thank you.
Good stuff. Okay, well, thank you very much. I think whether you're Christian, Jewish, another religion or no religion, there was so much we can learn from this. So many great, valuable lessons. And I hope you've all had a good evening with us tonight. So thank you very much, everyone, and we hope to see you again.
Shalom.
Thank you very much.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thanks for joining.